Call this Caddo Parish regular session meeting to order for November the 3rd at 3:30 p.m. Roll call, please, Mr. Hopkins. Or roll call, please, Mrs. Nations.
Dominic, Johnson, Jackson, Lynn, Bowman,
Present.
Here. Atkins, Chavez.
Here, ma'am.
Here. Thank you. We have a quorum. If everybody will please stand, we will have the invocation by the chair and then the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Mario Chavez. In recognition of different religions of the world, we will, out of respect, have a moment of silence. Thank you. We'll now have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you.
Everybody face our glorious flag and render your proper salute. Repeat after me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we sing it? We're going to have citizens' comments. There's a lot of people here speaking on Ordinance 5627. Traditionally, that would be under public comments for that ordinance. In recognition of law, you can actually speak on any issue you would like to speak on, up to 3 minutes. Knowing that there's two people that are under time constraints, I'm going to start off with those two people, even though they are speaking on Ordinance 5627. The first one is Francis Kelly. Pardon me, hold on one second. Are there any agenda additions? I've skipped a section. I do not see any agenda additions. Ms. Kelly, please come forward.
Hi, I'm Frances Kelly. I live at 935 Linden Street in Shreveport. And I'm here about this ordinance just from a very practical matter. I feel like it's going to have a chilling effect on free speech and the right to peaceably assemble and petition the government. As someone that's very involved in the democratic process, that's worked on the Concerned Citizens campaign at Camp Minden and various other campaigns, I know from a citizen's perspective, we don't always know ahead of time what's going to be happening, what we're going to have to respond to, how quickly we'll have to pull something together. And so putting up logistical barriers to that is something that makes it much, much harder for us to participate in the democratic process. And I think that that's unconstitutional and something that should not be done. I've been to hundreds of vigils, rallies, protests over the course of my life, starting when I was very young. I've never been at a violent demonstration. There's never been a concern of security. Even when I've participated in civil disobedience, there's never been any danger or anything to police, sheriff, citizens, bystanders, anything. And so I think that we've all, been able to show that we were able to exercise this right, and that right should be protected. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Thank you. Mr. Christopher Lyon.
Hello, Chris Lyon, 609 Texas Street in Shreveport. Everybody should note that that's about a half block from the courthouse. The closest citizen, actually, that lives to the courthouse. I've attended several different events, vigils, and protests that have happened at the courthouse, and really enjoy that right. We all just stood up and participated in the Pledge of Allegiance to, protect the Republic and everything that it stands for. And I really hope that what we see here is that understand that there's a need for making sure that police are ready, that the Sheriff's Department is able to take care of what they need to take care of. But unfortunately, I think that the problem here lies in execution. A counter-protest, let's say someone comes up and says, we're going to have a vigil. The counter-protest is not going to file a petition for you to assess whether or not you should have police there. It's just not going to happen. If the intentions are violent, they're not going to alert you. And that's, square one. In addition to abridgment of rights through costs, whether it be through insurance or needing to pay for additional police enforcement, that sort of things, there are precedents that you'll find that sit within different courts that show that that's not actually something that you can do. And so I think that you guys need to go back to the drawing board respectfully, with the interests of the citizens' rights at heart, in addition to trying to figure out solutions that will appease the Sheriff's Department and making sure that we are all kept safe. Again, as somebody who lives right there, I certainly want to feel safe, and I feel safe. And so those things, again, I've emailed all of you today. I hope that you've had a chance to read that email. And I'm not going to take up any more of your time. And I appreciate this leniency on letting me speak first. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. Thank you. Mr. Kenneth Kreft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Wilson, members of the Commission. Kenneth Kreft, 157 Archer Avenue, Shreveport, 71105. I come about once a year, and I just want to make my annual plea to assign to the proper committee a serious look at putting up sirens with the city, in conjunction with the city and the parish. I've mentioned before, every noon on Wednesday in Omaha, the sirens go off for a minute. In Kansas City, it's Tuesday. In Oklahoma City, it's Thursday. We could be the victim of a tornado, a train derailment with toxic chemicals. We need ways to warn people. A quick reminder of how not to warn people is don't do like Albert Pike when 20 people drowned because they were warned at 2:30 a.m. by text message, and they slept through the text and they drowned. They should have been blasted awake by loud sirens, and their possessions would have been flooded and ruined, but their lives would have been spared. So let's get serious about public safety before the horse leaves the barn, or we can wait for a tornado and triage the wounded and the dead and then say, gee, we need to do something about warning people. But for 30 years, it's fallen on deaf ears. I've been making this presentation since '86. I've made it to the school board, the council, the state legislature, and the Caddo Commission. None of those four bodies has acted. Government has to learn to start fixing what's broken and stop fixing what ain't. Finally, Mr. Chairman, I have a gift for Randy Lucky. I have an official Chicago Cubs watch box. I gave the watch away, but he gets the box.
And he's not elected.
Thank you so much, Ken.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McLean, in reference to the civil rights celebrations. Okay, you want to speak on both? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, and this august body, thank you for this privilege. I want to share with you on the 14th of November at Living Baptist Church, the epicenter of civil rights activities. There will be a celebration at 4 o'clock. We will honor two of our citizens, Mamie Love Wallace, a civil rights icon, and Mr. Jack Elroy for their work as far as the public good is concerned. Now to the ordinance. I am a child of the 60s and a veteran of civil rights movement. Most of the things that occurred in the 60s, I was eyewitness to, being a child of the parsonage and an active member of the NAACP. President Kennedy said in 1963, some issues are as old as the scriptures, and as clear as the Constitution. One of the things as an American, wherever I go, and I've been out this country several times, there's no place like it. This country's imperfect, but we're striving to make a more perfect union. And one of the foundations of this country, of course, we're a Christian nation, and there are two things that I don't tamper with is scriptures, and scriptures take care of themselves because of who inspired it, the Lord, and the Constitution. And one of the premises of our democracy is free speech, whether you like it, what the person says, or disagree with them. That gives you the right to say what you got to say, so long as you don't get physical with the other person to impose your will on the other in terms of violence. This ordinance, I believe, should be voted down because, one, as the sister said, you cannot predict when there is a need for public outcry and protest. Second, it will burden the poor and minorities, those of us who sometimes feel that we have to be heard. Second thing is, it is dangerous to bottle up the right to protest because people should have that feeling to make that, people should have their right to make that known, their feelings heard. And I always say this about any country. No country has ever lasted with an entrenched underclass. So you have to give people a chance to be heard. Dr. King said that a riot is the voice of the unheard. So I would urge you to vote this ordinance down. And as a black preacher, as I would say, as I take my seat, as I close, we as citizens pay enough in fees. Now, I sometimes tell the Tea Party crowd you need to drink coffee sometime, look at the other side. But on this, I'm going to drink some tea. We pay enough fees as citizens. And I should not have to be double taxed, sir and ma'am, to pay taxes, to maintain the grass, maintain downtown. At the same time, you're going to charge me fees. I'd like to be heard. That's sinful and it's senseless. God bless you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Brother McLean.
The rest of the cards that I have are focused on ordinance 5627, and so unless there's somebody that has an emergency, I will hold these other names until that time. With that, we will move on to special resolutions.
Special resolution of recognition of Pastor Harry Blake, recognizing 50th anniversary at Mount Canaan Baptist Church.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Jackson, second by Commissioner Bowman. The power surge, I'm going to guess, blew up the computer as far as who, I don't have electronic first and second on here.
Can't vote anyway. I know.
Uh-oh.
That passes by acclamation.
Okay, our voting mechanisms work.
Okay? Okay. We'll just,
But just I think it's just that one pad.
motion was made by Commissioner Jackson, seconded by Commissioner Bowman,
That's by acclamation.
and passed by acclamation.
Motion carried. Next, we move to adopt the regular session minutes from October 20th.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Jackson, second by Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Please vote. That passes. Next item, please.
Communiques and committee reports.
Commissioner Bowman.
I just wanted to thank everyone for attending. We had our first cultural diversity committee today, meeting at 1 o'clock, and I just want to thank all the commissioners and Brother Walker for the input, and I look forward to us moving forward with having an event soon that I think the citizens will need and enjoy, and we can progress from it. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowman. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, just wanted to remind everybody that Economic Development Committee will meet at our second meeting of the month, and I think Todd, you're gonna get that out to everybody. I know he's been busy, but I need your feedback on that economic. And Doc, I got that email. It looks like we can almost merge the two. I know it's two different things, but they seem a little simplified, so maybe we get together on that. But just want to remind committee members we'll meet the second meeting, Economic Development Committee members, and we'll get you an official date, whether it's that Monday or Thursday. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Vice President Jackson. Commissioner Middleton.
Okay, stand. Thank you. We're just getting some issues worked out. First of all, there'll be an Animal Services Committee meeting this afternoon about 4:30. Even if we finish this at 4:15, and we'll wait till 4:30 to give people who have a normal business hours and work till 5 or whatever might be able to make any allowances to be able to get here for that meeting. And may I ask, is there anyone in the audience here that's going to attend the Animal Services Committee meeting today, other than staff? Okay. All right. Second of all, tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock at the Veterans Home in Bossier City, And unfortunately, Commissioner Epperson's not here today to be able to announce this, so myself and Commissioner Gage Watts will announce it. At 10 o'clock, there will be a joint proclamation from both cities and governments, the four governments together, announcing the Veteran Services Parade to be held on November 13th, 2016 at the Louisiana State Fair. If you're going to be involved with it, you probably know about it, but if you're going to be out at the fair that day, please support this parade. And it will start on the west side of Independence Stadium and go through the fairgrounds to the main, I don't guess you'd call that the midway, but at least down where the concessions are, terminate at the Boys and Girls Club. And then there will be a special program going on there. So I ask anyone that is a veteran or supports a veteran, knew a veteran, related to a veteran, loves veterans, so please come out for that day. But again, tomorrow at 10 o'clock will be the proclamation. Also, let me say this, because of a family, I have to really 100% be there as you would too, situation tomorrow. I will not be at the MPC joint meeting. I will tell you right now that my opinion, because I don't want anyone to think I'm shirking my responsibilities. I'm not a big believer of this MPC, the Combined Unified Development Code. I think it's a cookie cutter approach, and I don't think it's going to work out for everyone in the world. I don't think it's going to work out for the people in rural Caddo Parish. So I'm going to put that out there right now, where I will probably go if this were to come up today for the Parish Commission to also adopt the UDC. I'd probably, unless something really changes my mind, I'll be voting no on it. To further that just a little bit again, because I won't have that opportunity tomorrow, I've been contacted by several groups, but the only one that seems to be so big on this is the MPC staff and the commissioners. Of course, the MPC commission has voted to send it to us and to the city of Shreveport, and I'm glad they did that. We need to get this can on down the road, and I'm just telling you right now, if the vote was right now for us to participate, I'd say no. I like a suggestion was made. If it's so good, let's let the city of Shreveport have it first. Let's revert back to several years ago and the MPC starting ordinances done. I think we need to just take a serious look at it. I know we won't be voting for it tomorrow. I don't know when it'll come up, but I know it's it. But I just, so Mr. Sweeney and everybody, if he's in the room, I'd love for him to know I'm probably going to be voting no for that. The eventual merging with the city on that. The trees that need to be cut in a particular area because of a development doesn't need to be decided by the MPC. So that's where I'm going. I'm from less government in most cases, and some people are going to say, well, this other thing, 5627, is more government, but it's not. We'll be able to explain our points on that later on. But anyhow, that's where I stand on this. So thank y'all. If you have any other comments to me about the MPC meeting, or if there's anyone out here that has any kind of problems with any agency of this department, of this parish, whether it's highway department, anything else, or animal services, you're welcome to talk to me. If it needs to be with anonymous talking, that's fine. We don't want things out there on the internet, on social media, degrading the great performance that this agency, the Caddo Parish itself, does. If you have a problem, we want to get down to the bottom of it. We don't want people throwing us out under the bus. We want to know what's going on. You got a problem with our people, you let us know. We have the procedures, the protocol to follow up on it. If we have problems, we'll take care of those problems. But if we do a good job, we'd like the accolades to go along with that, and we'd appreciate that so very much, because we got some hard-working people in this agency, the Caddo Parish Commission. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Middleton. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. First, I would like to send our sympathy out to Commissioner Ken Epperson and his family for the loss of his daughter, and that's the reason why he's not here today. And he would have definitely been talking about the Veterans Parade that's on November 13th.
He'd still be talking.
Right. So just want to let the public know that, and that's the reason why he's not here to discuss that and other issues. Today at 2 o'clock, we had our Personnel Policy and Procedures meeting. Had two things on the agenda. First was proposed steps to remove an officer from office. That went through great discussion. The second thing that was on the agenda was proposing standing committees for the commission moving forward. So that one, we had a motion to basically have our clerk and attorney to come up with some missions for each one of these committees that we talked about. Thirdly, I would also like to piggyback on what Commissioner Middleton talked about on the UDC. You know, basically it started out one way. We had a lot of public comment. Then it changed again, had another round of public comments, it changed again. And it's always been a push to try to get this passed by the end of the year. And personally, I don't believe that it's there yet. The commission tomorrow with the city council will be meeting in joint session to try to read through it, see what each group likes, dislikes. And, you know, I think that meeting will have to be more than one in order for us to try to even get to a state of where we either believe it's going to work or it's not going to work. I too have been receiving a lot of emails and phone calls pertaining to the UDC from developers, from private citizens, from businesses. I think the last round they helped out SWEPCO, so SWEPCO probably came off the table as one of the ones that was complaining about it. But I just want to make sure that a lot of times the general public doesn't really get involved in a lot of these zoning issues, and so until it's something that they have to go through. And then once they go through it, then it becomes a major problem. So we want to make sure that the public is fully understandable about what's going on with this UDC. And right now, I'm not comfortable supporting it. And I'll be there tomorrow to make sure that at least my voice is heard from some of the comments that people have told me about. Last piece, and this is something I've been weighing on my heart and soul about, saying something about, not saying something about. But you know, last week we sat in this chamber and the state Commerce Committee was here talking about the General Motors plant, ELIO, and all the things that came about from that from 2012-ish to the present time. And a lot of new things were brought out to a lot of people that they understood what was going on. And some people, they heard it, but it still went in one ear and came out the other. And I want people to really understand that the commissioners that were sitting on the commission last term sat through multiple meetings, fully discussing the contract at the General Motors plant. So it wasn't something that administration pushed down our throats, at least not my throat. They didn't twist my arm about anything. My deal was to try to make a mechanism to create jobs in Caddo Parish. It wasn't about a certain company coming here, producing a car or producing any kind of vehicle. It was about creating jobs. So if that happens, it's wonderful. If it doesn't happen, then at least we tried to make something happen in Caddo Parish. Major discussion was talking about the part about the building. Well, if we didn't step up to do the $7.5 million, what would happen to the building? There was two options.
Trashed.
One building would be salvaged. The other was they could walk away from it and then come back later on and salvage the building. Well, if the building is on the slab, how can you create jobs? It's hard. So as long as the building is standing, you still got a hope to create jobs. A lot of people also realize that they're paying about $2,000 a month as far as rent, utilities, and upkeep of the building. So that equates to about $2.4 million that's being put to that building per year to make sure that it's ready for anybody to come into. And any company that goes into it, they're going to have to make modifications because it's not perfect for any business except General Motors and what they was producing there. So you're going to still have to look at making some modifications to improve the site to get some company to come in. But at the same time, trying to create that same building for $7.5 million will never happen because it's over $1 billion to construct it. So the thing to do is to try to be patient, to see what we can do to try to put jobs there. And it wasn't to try to just say one company to come in and be the savior for Caddo Parish. It's try to make sure that we put some jobs there. And without a building, I don't see how you can have jobs there. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Cawthorn.
All right, President Lynn. I first of all want to welcome this weekend the Prince Hall Grand Lodge District 9 who will be sharing their regional conference here in the city of Shreveport. So they'll be here Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We welcome them. We're going to have a proclamation for them on tomorrow, and we encourage them to eat, dine, and buy stuff here in Caddo Parish and the city of Shreveport. Secondly, I want to remind everyone that this Saturday, the Shreveport-Bossier African American Chamber of Commerce will be having their annual business expo. They're going to be displaying all of the minority-owned businesses here in the city of Shreveport. If this community is to grow, I'm a believer that a rising tide lifts all boats. So we'd like you guys to come out there and see the showcase of those businesses. They have an esteemed speaker who's going to be Dr. Boyce Watkins, formerly of Syracuse University, who's going to be the keynote speaker. So I think it's going to be an event for all, and I encourage everyone to come out. Lastly, I want to publicly thank Reverend Israel McLean for coming down here today and sharing with us today. And we definitely want to participate in the civil rights program that he's having. But I want to go on record publicly in saying that the Little Union Baptist Church is as rich of a history here in the city of Shreveport. They don't always get the acclaim that they are due, but I think that that church is synonymous to 6th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, if you know your civil rights history. And his father doesn't get the acclaim that he should. He was a pioneer fighter in the civil rights struggle here in the city of Shreveport, in this South, and in this nation. And so I'm an advocate of giving people their flowers while they're living and acknowledging people what they have done. So I just want to publicly go on record and saying that today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cawthorn. That's everybody on the board.
Next, we move to President's report.
Out of respect for my fellow commissioners' time, I'm going to skip the President's report. To preface that with, I will be asking that we allow time for all 9 speakers to speak on Ordinance 5627. Next item, please.
Move public hearing on ordinances. Ordinance number 5624 of 2016, amending ordinance number 5586 of 2016 to expand how the funds can be used and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of Ordinance 5624? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of Ordinance 5624? Next item.
Move to ordinance number 5625, 2016, amending the budget of estimate revenues and expenditures for the Economic Development Fund for the year 2016 to provide an appropriation of $10,000 for the Thunder Road Raceway.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of Ordinance 5625? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of Ordinance 5625? Next item.
Move to ordinance number 5626, declaring certain adjudicated properties to be surplus and authorize the parish administrator designee to sell the parish's tax interest in certain surplus adjudicated properties.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of Ordinance 5626? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of Ordinance 5626? Next item.
Ordinance number 5627 to amend section 3246 of the Code of Ordinances relative to the parish courthouse grounds to generally regulate activity on the grounds, including requirement permits for demonstrations, restricting demonstrations, and establishing closing hours.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of Ordinance 5627 of 2016? Okay, seeing no one, is there anyone here to speak in opposition? And I have a list, and I'll call out, and then I'll ask if anybody else would like to speak. Mr. William Elliott. If you would, please, everyone, when you approach the podium, please state your name and address.
Hello, my name's William Elliott, 380 Fontaine Circle. This is the first time I've been to a commission meeting, and just wasn't easy to get off work, but I feel it's my civic duty to be here today. I'm here today to voice my opposition to all aspects of the proposed Ordinance 5627. The ordinance would add undue burden to the constitutionally protected right of free speech and peaceful assembly. Just requiring a permit 14 days in advance, as already stated, in and of itself is an unnecessary limitation of free speech. Moreover, the financial burden to the poor from funding security and insurance is a serious limitation of equal access and protection by the law. Respectfully, I strongly encourage you to vote this ordinance down, and I yield the floor to my other people opposing this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Mr. Chase Boynton.
Chase Boydham, 143 Southfield, Shreveport, Louisiana, 705. Apologize for the way I look. I've been sick since Saturday. I got married, but I'm in.
Congratulations. You don't have to put it on the record.
Don't worry, you'll get sicker.
But I have been sick.
Talking about the marriage, right?
I'm in strong opposition of 5627. I was able to attend the protests after the Orlando shooting, and it was a beautiful thing. And what I'm afraid of, and I agree with just about all the other speakers, is that if y'all pass this, then we won't have things like that anymore. It's just going to be impossible. That happened about 5 days after the Orlando shooting. And between insurance, which I have experience doing because I've done concerts in the Red River District and whatnot, it would just take so much money that it would just be impossible. And I would hate to see that. It was a very, very great thing. In fact, I planned on afterwards going to the same thing for police officers shot in Dallas, and I think they canceled that because of some unrest with the Baton Rouge thing. But I planned on being at that one and any other ones that I agreed with. And that's all I really have to say. I agree with what most of the other speakers said, but I just wanted to add that, and I hope that we can continue to peacefully protest what we see going wrong. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Boynton. Debbie Hollis.
Debbie Hollis, 732 Robinson Place, Shreveport. I emailed each of you commissioners my thoughts on this either yesterday or today. My former last name is Engel, so you may have received it from Debbie Engel. And thank you, Mr. Atkins, for your response. I appreciate that. In reading over the ordinance today, you all know my thoughts because you have the email, but in reading over the ordinance today, I had a question or two, or maybe it's a statement about the second whereas in the ordinance. Whereas that activity may itself become the target for criminal activity, et cetera, which threatens the safety, et cetera. So that's not actually a fact. That's kind of an assumption. And in order to establish a fact, we need to have proof, right? So I would like to ask if a threat assessment or risk analysis has been performed at the Caddo Parish Courthouse, and if so, what methodology was used? So nobody has any knowledge of whether or not?
At this point in time, our bylaws don't allow questions. However, what we can do, if I could direct you to Attorney Frazier after the meeting to answer those questions.
Okay, well then I would like to go on the record saying...
Or we can suspend the rules.
No.
Okay, keep going.
Okay. I would like to go on the record saying that I think before we infringe on the rights, the constitutional rights of the citizens in Caddo Parish, that we make sure that we make public the results of the threat assessment or risk analysis that's been performed for the Caddo Parish Courthouse. And for familiarity and reference, the Department of Homeland Security has a vulnerability assessment methodologies report that is available for all municipalities, counties, parishes, states, so that they can perform these things in a routine manner that's acceptable to the federal government. I would also like to move down to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sixth whereas courthouses across the country, including the Supreme Court of the United States, have deemed it appropriate to restrict activity on its grounds for security purposes. It's a fairly arbitrary statement in that the Supreme Court does have a certain buffer zone in the front of the building, but in every case it has been presented to the Supreme Court since then where another entity is asking for a buffer zone, they have rejected every single one. And I challenge you all to look that up. I've done my research, but I'm not going to bore you with that. It's easily accessible on the internet. And I've actually personally had to deal with that because I'm an activist, and I do have to protest and counter-protest often. And we have tried to approach the topic of having a buffer zone at the Hope Medical Group. And because of the Supreme Court's decisions in the past regarding buffer zones for everyone aside from themselves, we've just foregone that. And we respect the First Amendment rights of the people who are there to speak their minds. Section 3246 regarding the courthouse grounds. Section B says the courthouse grounds shall be closed to the public from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. except for parish-sponsored or approved events. Our assessment, or the assessment that I referred to earlier, will determine if that proposed restriction is reasonable under the law. Anytime a law like this is proposed, we talked about the strict scrutiny that is applied, because you are basically infringing on a constitutional right to free speech, public assembly. And in order to apply, to meet the standards of strict scrutiny, we're going to need to have an assessment. We're not just going to be able to say that an activity may become the target for criminal activity. That simply won't stand up to strict scrutiny. Also, the First Amendment, well, as we move down to Section C, just beneath that, the First Amendment requires an exception for spontaneous responses to current events. This is settled case law. Also, it requires a waiver for financial reasons for all these insurance requests and things like that that are mentioned in the ordinance. Again, settled case law. Not an attorney, but Google is great. As you can see, I have a lot of notes here. I'm just trying to see if there's, as a protester and counter-protester, frequently, I arrange protests and public actions on public property. And I've done this quite a lot. Every time that any of the groups I'm associated with has an action or a demonstration, we hand out via email or personally a civil disobedience training manual. We like the one from ACT UP New York because they've been around for a really long time and been extremely successful with their demonstrations and actions. And so everyone, I can assure you, everyone who is associated with any demonstration or activity that I'm involved with has a copy of the Civil Disobedience Manual. The ACLU also has a handy guide that we like to hand out to all of our participants. And it is called Know Your Rights, Demonstrations and Protests, so that we can protect ourselves and protect law enforcement. I have never once, I believe Francis said this a while ago, I have never once had an experience with either a law enforcement officer or a demonstrator in any of the protests I've been involved in the last 20 years. Never had a negative experience. The police officers, the sheriff's deputies have always maintained their professional behavior. They've always treated us with respect, treated the opposing side with respect, and there have been many spirited discussions that have taken place at these events, but I can honestly say that in 20 years I've never seen a violent act. Never. And I have so much confidence that the Caddo Parish Sheriff's Department can protect us in these situations. They've always been nothing but professional. I really don't understand why the sheriff has expressed doubt about that. I truly don't understand it. I've got some more stuff. If you guys would like to check out my research at some point in time, I'd be happy to share it with you. But that's really all I have, and thank you for listening to us. It's really nice to be here, and again, thank you for your response. Mr. Atkins, you're always very responsive when I email you, and thank you.
Thank you.
Can I say, Mr. President, don't we have a 15-minute time limit? Nobody has said that to these people. We're at almost 9 minutes right now.
Make a motion to suspend the rules to allow the other 5 people to speak. Motion's been made by the chair.
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Bowman. So if there are 5 more people that want to speak, and I would like them to have the opportunity to speak, and that is why previously I did not give a president's report, because I could have given a 30-minute or a 1-hour president's report, and I chose not to because I'm going to kindly ask all of y'all to let these people speak. Please vote on allowing them. Oh, excuse me. Commissioner Dominic.
All I was telling you, I wasn't saying they can't speak. I was just saying that you need to notify, normally how we do this, that we have a 15-minute time limit, right, so that, you know, someone doesn't take up more than they normally do. Right now you have how many more? 6 people?
5.
But we have rules and regulations, right, and I think we need to stick with those. We have them adopted, and I was just simply saying that you need to let them know they got till 15 minutes, you know, to get this done.
I apologize for not doing that publicly. I did do that to them in a group before the meeting and let them know that we would have to vote on this, so I apologize for not saying it over the microphone. And so there is a 15-minute limit, and of course we do have the right to suspend the rules, which we have asked to do, which there'll be a vote hopefully after Commissioner Middleton speaks. If you're finished, Commissioner Dominic.
I'm done at this point.
Commissioner Middleton.
I would respectfully say to cap this one at 20 minutes total because of any possible misunderstanding, and this was not conveyed to the people up front as it should have been in a public setting. So I would make a motion that it goes to 20 minutes.
I second that motion.
Total.
Total.
Point of order, you'd be adding 5 more minutes is what you would do.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
There's been a motion made by Commissioner Middleton, second by Commissioner Dominic to top it at 20, which I do not support. Please vote on the substitute motion. I don't see anybody on the board.
Say that.
And that passes. Okay, there's a 20-minute cap. And so how many minutes are left, Mr. Hopkins?
They'll add 5 minutes. There should be 11 minutes and 22 seconds left.
Okay. There are 5 of you, and so we can do the division 3 minutes apiece. Mr. Randall Lord.
3 minutes. 2 minutes.
I'll be as brief as possible. My name is Randall Lord. I live at 10022 Winding Ridge Drive in Shreveport. According to the Declaration of Independence, we all have certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, the government are instituted amongst men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Notice this, the primary function of the government is to secure our rights, not itself. This proposed ordinance erodes our right to peacefully assemble on the very property that the public owns. It wishes to throttle our right to meet at a time of our choosing and to mandate that we pay some fee to an insurance company. Further, it requires a minimum waiting period of at least 2 weeks before the assembly can even gather. This proposed ordinance will land you in federal court where you'll be spending hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars in legal fees in your attempt to defend an unconstitutional regulation. If you care about being a good steward of our money, you will vote against this proposed ordinance, as the cost to enforce it will outstrip any intended benefit you may be expecting. Increasing regulations does not preserve our liberties, it destroys them. Less government, more freedom. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. J. McSharman. And you can rephrase your name if I butchered it, please.
Dr. J. McSharma, 211 Eagle Bend Way, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71115. I'll try to speak quickly. Thank you all for having us. And like my commissioner in District 8 mentioned, I don't want this to always be like this nefarious adversarial process where we all show up en masse and like, oh God, what are they complaining about now? I want it to be like, we're talking, we're discussing, and I promise to give kudos where kudos is due, such as right now. Thank you for always having us and being open-minded and being responsive through email. I did organize the social media campaign, but that was just to provide your contact information and your email addresses so that we could speak directly to you. So I never want it to be something that is awful. I want us to have a pleasant and wonderful relationship where we can discuss things, because I feel like everyone here wants the same thing. Okay, quickly. The first thing is I feel like this ordinance arose out of the Sheriff Department's concern over a group of armed open carry protesters who wanted to walk around with a Confederate flag and boasted a group of 2,000 people, and then they scheduled a protest at the courthouse and they showed up with only like 17 or 50 or somewhere nowhere close to 2,000. And so the Sheriff's Department or the city spent $16,000 in money that was not necessary because the people that showed up weren't what they were expecting. So my first point is that the ordinance as this is written would not have prevented that. I mean, they would have registered 14 days in advance, said we're coming, this is our purpose, we're bringing 2,000 people, and then a bunch of people would have punked out on the last day and not showed up. And so this ordinance would have done nothing to prevent the actual reason the ordinance was proposed in the first place. So that's logistically, it doesn't seem like it would have prevented the whole thing, the whole reason the ordinance was written in the first place. And then you're just going to be banning peaceful protesters who never caused any kind of problem whatsoever. So the good people are being punished because of a volatile situation that never actually occurred. The second thing is that if you do want to address possible violence and safety concerns, then suggest an ordinance that okay, you can organize, but if you're going to bring weapons, then you have to register 14 days in advance. So that way the Sheriff's Department and the SPD and whoever is here to protect us can be aware of that. But don't make it a requirement of people who just want to show up with a bunch of kumbayas and guitars and want to talk about things. Don't make us be the ones to have to register 14 days in advance and purchase event insurance. And I know that I spoke with President Lynn about this already. Hundreds of dollars in event insurance is already taking away the voice of the underprivileged who can't afford that already. So you're just silencing voices that are already struggling to be heard. So I really, really encourage you not to do any of this ordinance, but really the event insurance. Next, that the public safety would not actually be furthered by this ordinance. I think I touched on that. My fourth point is that the approval, I understand that in exigent circumstances, according to this ordinance, it can be approved by the parish administrator or his designee. But I think anytime we give a person or a governing body the right to say who can say what and when, then you're infringing on rights, and that's a slippery slope that we do not want to go down. And as I've mentioned before, it's for an imagined threat that's not even going to be prevented by this ordinance, so there's like zero benefit to it from my standpoint. I would wager that this is antithetical to the entire American philosophy, to be a little dramatic about it. And I worry that despite your best intentions, this will devolve into something where a person or body can censor or silence voices that are already finding it difficult to speak. If the issue is that the sheriff's department and the police department are underfunded, then let's find ways to get them more money, but not through this way. And lastly, transparency. We all know about this because of a Facebook post from 7 p.m. yesterday, but if there's a better way to publicize this so that the community can be more involved in decision making, I would propose moving meeting times to where it's more palatable for people to attend. I think that would be more amenable to public discussion in the future. So thank you for your time. I talked way more than I meant to. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Mr. Michael Chisholm.
Hey. My name is Michael Chisholm. I'm at 6046 Margaret Drive. I guess business-wise, I'd like to say, I would like to see the Sheriff's Department do as much as it can to provide a plan to keep us safe, do what they should do before we move into a place where we are restricting people's rights, before we're saying the burden goes back to us, that we're going to lose something. And the reason I'd like to do that is I'd like to say that the one thing I'd encourage you to do is to see the good in protest, to see the good in what comes from these things. Because we have had vigils, we've had moments where we've come together as a community and we've seen enormous good. And when we begin to restrict those things, and the restrict is the word I'm moving here from where it says you would restrict demonstrations. Those are your words. I didn't put those in there. You did that. And so I would encourage you to know that out of these things come amazing things in our community. People's lives changed. Agendas move forward that should have. And if we begin to restrict that, then we stop seeing that growth in our community. So instead of leading from a fear or from protection of something that you're afraid is going to be destroyed, remember there's enormous good that comes from these things that you will thwart if you restrict too much. So again, if you want me to get behind you on all this, change the restrict demonstration out of that, because that just doesn't sound very good. But also, keep your heart and mind open, okay? Because we can see so much good happen if we just let people have the freedoms they're supposed to have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Reverend Barbara Jarrell.
$100.
I'm Barbara Gerald. My address is 101 Napoleon Drive, Shreveport, 71115, and all of my points have been made.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Mr. Bill Weiner, who celebrated his birthday a couple of days ago. I won't say the number.
55.
Thank you. I'm Bill Weiner. My business address is 333 Texas Street, Suite 2290, 71101, Shreveport. I couldn't believe that this even came up. I don't understand how our officials don't know the U.S. Constitution. It is clearly in violation of the First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. Putting that aside, the parish's public venue is the courthouse square. There's no other place that represents the parish where people can gather and be heard. And besides that, the sheriff's department is there. You know, it's right there, the security. And there used to be a jail upstairs. I don't know if it's still there. If someone misbehaves, if it's still there, take him up there. And I believe there was an electric chair there. And if they're really bad, maybe you plug it in. But it is so ridiculous. Look, as an architect, I visited the Boston City Hall. It was a very fine building. It's on a plaza. The subway stopped there, and it's kind of the entrance into the old part of Boston. In their plaza, they have a amphitheater for people to sit and protest, and they have rostrums like this around where anytime any citizen can come up and make a speech about anything. If people want to gather and listen to it, that's freedom. That's the cradle of liberty. I was chairman of the Secretary of Interior's Advisory Board on National Parks and Monuments, and in that role, I visited a lot of parks and monuments. I was at Independence Hall in Philadelphia, and was shown around by the superintendent. And he made it very clear to me, he encouraged protesters to meet outside and say whatever they wanted, but he said, this is a precious building, you cannot come in, but we will support your right to speak outside on public property. This will go to court. You will lose. And I hope that in the case, anybody that supports this will personally be named in the suit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weiner. And in recognition of 2 minutes left on the schedule, and I did see two young future voters that looked like they wanted to talk in the middle, and I wanted to give them the opportunity, and or anybody else who wanted to speak, to approach the podium. Okay, not to put anybody on the spot. We'll move on to the next item, please.
That will close the public hearings this time. We'll move to ordinances for final passage. Ordinance number 5624 of 2016, amending ordinance number 5586 to expand how the funds can be used to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
So move for adoption.
Moved by Commissioner Jackson.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Johnson. Please vote.
It was working. There we go.
And that passes. Next item, please.
Ordinance number 5625 of 2016, amending the budget estimate revenues and expenditures for Economic Development Fund for the year 2016, provide appropriation $10,000 for Thunder Road.
I move that this matter be removed from the agenda at this time.
Second. Moved by Commissioner Dominic to remove from the agenda, second by Commissioner Johnson. Please vote.
The loud second.
Quick and loud, yes. Good to see you two agreeing.
Just like family.
We agree more than we disagree, I think.
Yeah, we do.
I agree.
That is removed. Next item, please.
Ordinance number 5626 of 2016, declaring certain adjudicated properties to be surplus and authorize the parish administrator or designee to sell tax interest.
So move for adoption.
Moved by Commissioner moved by Commissioner Jackson, second by Commissioner Cawthorn. Please vote. That passes. Next item, please.
Ordinance number 5627 of 2016, to amend section 3246 of the Code of Ordinances relative to parish courthouse grounds.
Bless you.
I move that we send this back to Long Range Planning Committee.
Second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Bowman to send back to Long Range Planning, seconded by Vice President Jackson. Please, Commissioner Bowman, do you want to speak on your motion?
Only thing I want to say is that the citizens have spoken, and that's the reason why we're here. So if we have this many citizens who feel that we need to revisit this and take it off, then that's what we should do.
Thank you. Vice President Jackson.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman, and I agree with Commissioner Bowman 100%, but I do want to compel this body because as I sit here and I listen, and as we moved into this day, and I was a little concerned because it was mentioned when this was first brought up that we should
there was some hesitation. And I just want us to make sure that we don't have to have a public show every time something like this, especially when the warning goes out. And I often say that we should, respect the ideas and positions of each other. And I know for a fact that several warnings went out about this, and we shouldn't always have to have a barrage of people come down here. We work together, although we may disagree on some things. It shouldn't take these kinds of shows to take place. And then on the opposite side, I would encourage the citizens to also stay engaged long term, because this has been out there for quite some time. It went back to committee, and I think we postponed it twice in committee, and here it is. Because I am concerned that now, we have to own this. This is not something that any particular parish commissioner introduced. And I'm of the belief had Stephen Jackson proposed this, we wouldn't be talking about this. But because certain persons put it out there, it got legs and started running with it. And so I just want to make that appeal to both sides, is that we would respect each other as colleagues. Because even up here, and as I look at our bylaws and our rules and how we operate up here, we don't promote free thought and free, we limit what we do here. And I've said that since I joined this body, and I would urge us, and I'm going to continue to urge us to promote free thinking, free idea sharing, and freedom of speech at all times. So that's just my little 2 cents there, and I appreciate the motion, Commissioner Bowman.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vice President Jackson. Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. In regards to this, the phrase from Benjamin Franklin comes to mind: those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. So I appreciate all you guys and applaud you for coming out here for that. Today, I don't want any one of you guys in the audience to think that the 12 of us commissioners came up with this idea. And although we serve a hard task as legislators, having to find balance between things that certain people in the parish need and the safety of the other citizens, we had a tough task to make. I'll echo what he said, is I didn't see a lot of citizens show up for the different committee meetings that we have. I, as the chairman, can lead myself to blame for not calling Michael and Chase and telling you guys. But I'll tell you what, I know who to call now to lead the troops on who needs to show up and have a voice for the little people. So I appreciate you guys coming out here today. And this won't go unheard. And obviously you can see what happens. You guys have a voice. It matters when you stand up and come down here, and we listen. And you guys are strength in numbers, so thank you, and keep on coming back, guys. That's all, President.
Thank you, Commissioner Chavez. Parliamentarian Dominic.
Yeah, I would just say a couple things. I think that we need to keep in mind that we need to be sure that, and I'm okay with this, I think that to send it back to the committee, I think that one of the issues that Commissioner Lynn and I were talking about before is the underprivileged in the insurance, because, I mean, obviously, it's going to be very hard to get some type of insurance policy. But I do at the same time understand, and I think we need to keep it also in mind, there is a safety issue, and I know that there are people here that are opposed to it, but I'm sure there's plenty of people that are for some type of ordinance along this line. At this point, I think we just need to send it back to the committee, ask the committee to continue to work with this. I think that the issue concerning the insurance is something that strongly needs to be looked at, and hopefully we can come up with something. I understand that that's the courthouse, but we've talked to our lawyers. We do have lawyers. We're not going to just jump into something. We're going to get into a lawsuit, and we do think that you can put reasonable restrictions on time and place and manner. At the same time, we obviously understand peaceful rights to protest and make those issues I always said as an attorney that, you know, my main concern was, you know, you had a murder trial or something, you know, the district attorney or maybe the defense counsel has a right to go out and make a speech, and that's covered to allow those things. So I will be supporting the move back. Hopefully we don't have a whole lot of continuing discussion on this, and I would ask that let's move on and just move us to committee.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, sir. I think it's been in committee enough. I'm gonna vote not to send it back to committee. What we heard today is something we should be hearing every time we meet. We should have public input every time we meet, but only on certain topics where we get a lot of people to come down to talk about. If we have something on here about guns, this whole room will be filled. If we have something about dogs, at least 2/3 of this will be filled. But right now, what I heard today, we talked about poor rights. I heard about that. I heard about public safety. I heard about government overstepping their bounds and putting in things that that will overdo what the public wants us to do. I heard about the First Amendment, and I was glad to hear about the First Amendment today because during this whole campaign election, the only thing I've been hearing about is the Second Amendment. And it's 23 of them. So I was glad to hear somebody else talk about more than just the Second Amendment. One problem I had with this whole deal is that it cherry picks a lot of different things. There's a lot of waivers that could be either waived by someone's discretion, but there's no guidelines to these waivers. And so I was totally against it from the beginning. I'm against it now. It goes to committee and comes back out, and you take out the insurance, I'm still going to be against it. So we just got to come up with something that's totally different than what it is. Because even if you get it and you take the insurance piece out of it, then you still have that person that has the right to either waive something over here for this group or not waive it for another group. There's no consistency in it. Anytime you get to the bottom of reading all of this, and you get to the bottom and it says that there's a waiver and someone could do this or do that, scratch it, because it ain't no good. I know I used improper English just then, but that's how I feel. It ain't no good. So the citizens have spoken. We supposed to be listening to them, and if they say that they're totally against it, there was nobody here for it. Just like I told y'all back in January when we started talking about all these policy changes. If this room isn't full, it's not a public concern. It's only a handful of people concerned that y'all was talking about. These people came down here from different walks of life to complain about this. And there's still some more in the audience that didn't talk. So I think we should listen to what they say, vote it down, come up with something else, and then present that. But just handing this back to committee, it goes to what y'all talked about earlier on. Talking about stuff go to committee and then it dies. So y'all gonna send it to a committee and then just let it peacefully ride out in the sunset. No, vote. Get it out the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Atkins.
Well, I've always been supportive of law enforcement. I think we need to continue to be supportive of law enforcement. However, I think we missed the mark here. I think we've got some more work to do ahead of us. I think we need to try to find a balance between public safety and freedom of speech and personal right. That's a tough, that can be a tough balance to find sometimes, but we certainly missed the mark here, and we need to send it back to committee and start clean, not try to tweak a document that doesn't seem to be working, but start with a fresh slate, and try it again. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Middleton.
Okay, I appreciate what everyone has said, and also the people in the audience that came out also and expressed your concerns. I appreciate that. I'm going to be good with it going back to committee, but I want one term that I think Ms. Hollis mentioned. Orlando Assembly on the Courthouse Square, I did not consider that a protest. I consider that a vigil, because we're honoring or recognizing the 49 people or so who were killed on American soil. No matter what their beliefs were or whatever, they were criminally killed by somebody suspected terrorist. Anytime anybody does anything from terroristic activity, I'm gonna probably be out there to, if we were protesting that, that's good. I was out there for that. Again, thanks for the emails. I appreciate it. Didn't mean to not acknowledge them back, as evidently Mr. Atkins did. I apologize. There's just so many of them coming. I was in other meetings too, beginning about 11 o'clock today, and I just wanted to give those meetings my attention too. There's many public properties around this community, in addition to the Caddo Parish Courthouse. The Caddo Parish School Board has several campuses. CenturyLink over in Bossier City was built with public funds. So do you think they're going to also allow you to come on their property if you want to protest something? And I'm just saying to open the thought. I'm not trying to get into an argument or discussion with that. Safety is what's being overlooked here. The sheriff had a responsibility to let the commission know about a lot of money that he had to spend out of his budget in order to protect the facilities of the Caddo Parish citizens. He fulfilled that. He made that known to us. And then how do you come up with a resolve for that? You got to have somebody. If somebody does come in, and Ms. Haas also mentioned that 20 years of being a peaceful protester, she never had any problem with the police. I don't think that's the big problem here. It's the counter-protesters or other people that could show up and cause the problems. Very few crimes are prevented when you call the police after the fact. If the police, the sheriff's office, the marshal's office, whoever is charged with doing the security on that particular event is already there, that's how you have more of a likelihood to protect property, to protect lives. And I think that's the big intent of everyone that's here, or sorry, I'm sorry, the law enforcement aspect of it. Yeah, hey, I never will shirk the, that I'm a member of law enforcement, had been for 37 years before I retired. But I think that's what the underlying issue is here, is one, safety of the individuals that are involved with it, and secondly, to be able to recover the cost of the property. I'm okay if we need to water down a little bit about the liability, and okay, I'm pretty much good with that. But also, as this meeting was announced today, with somewhat of the agenda, the 5627 being on it, I really expect and request more people to come up and show up. But I do also say we have bylaws that says you only be limited to so many minutes to be able to talk. And if that was better conveyed, then that's why we went ahead and made that exception. You still came up short. Thank you so much for that. But I want everyone, we need to get this out through our PIO and everyone. There's caddo.org. You go to caddo.org and there's a notify me click on there. And everyone can go on there and click everything that you want to be notified of, and then some more stuff. So that will come to you that an agenda has been set by the clerk. An agenda has been set, and we'll tell you what the items are going to be on that. Please, I want everybody in Caddo Parish that has access to the internet to know that. Go on there and do that. That's kind of your responsibility to know what we're doing, so you do come up here and challenge us on what might be controversial. Again, anything that you give us accolades, we also appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Middleton. Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. I express some of the same sentiments of my colleagues with a lot of things that they have said. And also, addressing the issue of safety is a concern. However, I do agree that if we send this back to the long-range planning committee, that we're going to be doing the same thing. You all will be back down here again. Every email that I received, I read it and I said, thanks, I'm listening to you. And that is what we need to hear. We need to hear from you all each time. I always invite my constituents, the public, out and let them know when we're having a meeting, because sometimes your voice is needed. All of the times your voice is needed, so that we know if you're in favor or against what we are proposing. I was talking to my colleague earlier today, and I said that I wouldn't want anyone planning a birthday party for me that didn't know me. So we don't know what you need unless you reach out to us and tell us what you need. You have clearly spoken, and I commend you each for doing what you have done, and I have listened. And I don't think that we should just put a Band-Aid on this, send it back to committee, and we be back at square one, and you all back again. So I will be voting against sending it back. Let's start over fresh and relook at it and see how it can be appealing to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice President Jackson.
Yeah, I heard in the public hearing, and I just wanted to bring that up. I heard in the public hearing someone talk about our meeting times, and I do want to put that out here now for the body, because I know at some point soon we'll be discussing and setting our meeting times, and I think we also need to, I don't know if it would be policies and procedures that it would run through, or internal affairs, wherever we have it, but I think we do need to discuss the times in which we meet so that folks can stay actively involved, because, you know, it's easy for some of us to take off and come down here at 3. I think we got a UDC tomorrow, meeting tomorrow at 2. So if somebody took off at 3 today, and then they got to take off at 2 tomorrow, it puts and I heard a lot about the working class and the people who are just barely making it. It takes a lot for them to go through these channels to get down here. And so that's what I mean when I say, how are we positioning ourselves as a body? I love to see folks down here, but I don't need it. And I love to hear from constituents. I think if we do the right thing and are guided by what is right all the time, those things, common sense should prevail. We do have 2 issues. We do have a safety concern, because we do have to, I wouldn't want anybody out there paying respect and homage to Orlando, and then you have somebody who's off their medication looking to make a statement and come disrupt that. And so who would be liable if something happened? And so we have an obligation to this body, if I'm correct, Attorney Frazier, we have an obligation to put some buffers, because we would be responsible in the event something happens out there without
That is
insurance.
correct.
And so when we talk about how we use and our fiduciary responsibility to take care of the taxpayers' money, well, if we have to settle something, we're talking millions of dollars, as opposed to, you know, these little dollars that we're talking about. So there is some common ground that we have to come to. We have to figure out what we can live with. If I'm correct, the city of Shreveport requires insurance at all of their locations.
That is correct, as well as security.
And security. There's a security plan that has to be put in place. So, you know, there's going to have to be some give and take in this. There's going to have to be, and I'm not saying we should infringe on anybody's rights or anything like that, but I want to make sure that we do get an opportunity to get all the voices in and hear from everybody. And I would encourage you guys to stay after we take the vote, because I text Levette all the time, why y'all leaving? We took the vote, now you're gone. Because we got more decisions that are going to affect you. I'm sorry, Levette, I didn't mean to call you out. But we have more decisions on this agenda today that are going to affect Caddo Parish. So I think somebody talked about picking and choosing what issues we speak out on. We have to find some common ground somewhere else. I appreciate all of what I've heard and appreciate your support.
Thank you, Vice President Jackson. Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, you know, I guess from the time in which they first started having public assemblies at the courthouse up until now, what has been the number of deaths, the number of injuries, so forth. I mean, if we push people out from the courthouse, they can still stand on the sidewalk, they can stand in the street, they can come over here, they can march from one end of downtown to the other. I mean, so now you just grown your security risk from the courthouse down to different places in downtown. So I just think that this needs to be scrapped, start all over, get public input. You've heard some of it today. The liability piece of it, I mean, we've had some in place for liability from, I don't know how many years back. They had like some type of hold harmless agreement that was done or something. Permit process. You had something, right?
We've had that. The problem comes when you have people who don't want to sign and abide by that.
Well, the people who don't want to abide by what we have in place, the hold harmless and the permit, they don't want to abide by it, then you step up security to say you cannot have this because you did not follow proper protocol. But to go from this to swing the pendulum all the way to the other side, it's just way out of order to me. So I think we just need to scrap this and regroup somewhere in the middle.
The committee.
And right now, we're too far off. Thank you.
Thank you. We would have to suspend the rules to allow Commissioner Jackson to speak. You have a point of order?
Calling for the question.
Oh.
No one else on the board.
There's no one.
I was just calling for the question.
Okay.
That's
Call
his
for the
liberty
question.
and his
Question's been
right,
called
his
by-
First Amendment.
I see no objection. Question's been called by Commissioner Jackson, second by Commissioner Dominic.
Ain't nobody else on the board.
I was just about to do the same thing.
Okay.
Call for the question.
So this is to
Hold on,
send it
go
to
ahead.
the committee?
Okay. Well, there's any.
This is
Gotta
called
vote
a
on
question
call
at
for
the
the
moment.
question first.
Okay, I'll put the question
Good
first.
call.
Question's been called. Please vote on the issue. I
The
believe
issue is
sending
to
it
move 5627 back to the Long Range Planning Committee.
I thought I have a question.
Everyone vote yes.
Did we not have a substitute motion on the floor?
No,
Okay.
we didn't have a second one.
It doesn't make sense.
Okay.
That moves back to Long Range Planning Committee. I do encourage everybody to stay because there is still stuff on the agenda. Not much, but some. Thank you. Next item, please.
Next, we move to ordinances for introduction by title. Ordinance number 5650, adopting the budget of estimate revenues, expenditures for Shreveport Memorial Library for the year 2017. Ordinance number 5651, amending the 2016 budget of estimate revenues and expenditures for the oil and gas fund to reduce the appropriation for oil royalties by $150,000. Ordinance number 5652, amending the 2016 budget of estimate revenues and expenditures for the Public Works Fund and Solid Waste Fund to reduce the appropriation for sales taxes by $2.1 million. Ordinance number 5653, declaring the intention of the Parish of Caddo to acquire full ownership of certain adjudicated property pursuant to LARS 472236, namely 4017 and 4019 St. Vincent Avenue, to authorize such actions as necessary to acquire ownership. Ordinance number 5654, declaring certain adjudicated properties to be surplus and authorize parish administrator or designee to sell the parish's tax interest. Next, we need to ratify the work session minutes.
Moved by Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts to ratify the work session meeting minutes. Second by Commissioner Jackson. Oh, second by Commissioner Cawthorn, pardon me. Please vote. Those are ratified. Next item.
Next, we move to resolutions. Resolution number 88, amending the rules and bylaws of Caddo Parish Commission by the submission of agenda items by commissioners.
Move to adopt.
Second.
That is moved by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts. Would you like to speak on your motion, Commissioner Johnson?
Not yet.
Would you like to speak on your second, Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts?
I'll sustain at this time.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, I just wanted a quick clarification that, is there a turnaround time for this? So is it still by just the Thursday, get it in by Thursday, and it goes on by title?
Yeah.
Okay.
That didn't change.
Okay, appreciate it, that's it, thank you.
I have Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was just going to add that I do think it's important to have the consistency and discipline of our legal counsel to review all of these and take a lead in finalizing any ordinances or resolutions that come to this body. Thank you.
I'm curious, is there, if you get it in to legal by Wednesday, you'll have it out by Thursday? Is there a promise of delivery included with this?
Mm-hmm. We're
No.
gonna do that best.
Because it depends upon is research, how much time is needed to actually prepare it. If it's the first time that we're hearing about it and it's something relatively complicated, we can put the title on the agenda, but you might not have the body of it until Friday or Monday.
Okay, that's acceptable.
Point of
So-
order, sir.
Yes,
That
sir.
does not coincide with our bylaws. Our bylaws is to have the title and the actual document by 2 o'clock Thursday.
Okay.
That is our bylaws.
We need to go by our bylaws.
Well, then, if you all want, if it needs to be out by Thursday, then we need to have at least 48 hours, preferably more, to get something written to you, especially if we're going to have you review it several times to go back and forth on form.
Not fair to y'all.
And so, Attorney Frazier, are you stating that if you have something 48 hours in advance, you will be able to have the line item and the body by Thursday for Mr. Hopkins?
Usually, unless it's more complicated, in which case we need to discuss delaying it.
Thank you. You already spoke.
Cases.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, we meet every other week, and so, I mean, if it's something that you want to put on the agenda, you should kind of already have in mind what you want to do. Now, if you wait till Wednesday at 4 o'clock and then say you want to put this on the agenda, and if you write it, I mean, is it going to be right? I mean, it's going to be something that we're going to actually move forward, or are you going to try to cram it down to say, well, let's move forward and then let legal go back and review it? That's not how we should be doing it. They should be reviewing it before it comes on as a public record on this agenda. So, and I've been guilty of bringing stuff to them late on Wednesdays as well, but at the same time, I do let them look at it first before it hits this agenda, and not something that I write and put on here and then say, well, we can't really do this, or if they told you we can't do it and you still try to push it to go out there, then that's still an issue. And once it becomes public record, we shouldn't be trying to then fix it between the work session and the regular session. It should be done the right way when it hits this as a work session agenda item. So this is one of the reasons why I put it out here, so that we can do this. Now, I know sometimes there's stuff that comes up at the last minute that you want to put up there. Then there's a couple ways we can do it. But at the same time, you still want to make sure that we do it the right way the first time, instead of doing all this around the world and still not right by the time we vote on it. Thank you.
Commissioner Dominic?
Call for the question.
Second.
Question's been called by Commissioner Dominic, second by Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts. That question's been called. Please vote on the issue. Okay, that passes. Next item.
Resolution number 90, to authorize the Caddo Parish Administrator to approve the assignment and bill sale of state leases.
Second. Moved by Commissioner Dominic, second by Commissioner Middleton. You want to speak on your motion?
Yeah.
Commissioner Johnson?
Want to englobo Resolution 90 and 91.
Second.
Motion to englobo by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Dominic, 90 and 91. Please vote.
Englobo and accept.
Englobo and accept. Thank you.
Approved.
Excuse me, Commissioner Jackson's on the board. He was on the board.
Just gonna make a quick comment. I don't know, I'll probably ask for personal privilege. I'll ask for personal privilege.
Yes, Commissioner Jackson, you already have the floor.
I'll get it now. I just wanted to just point out, I didn't get to mention it, especially as we talk about free speech. But some of us work full-time jobs, and so I did want us to put that out there. And a lot of times, you know, I run 6 clinics or help run 6 clinics, and so my head is often down. And so, you know, I hope that at some point we would consider looking at those who work full-time jobs. And I'm not saying I'm not the only one, but I don't want something to be left out if I get it in Wednesday or Thursday morning.
Oh, okay.
So I just want us to be considerate of
That makes sense.
That's all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Please vote. Next item, please.
Resolution number 92, urging the Caddo Parish Industrial Development Board to request quarterly financial reports from Shreveport Business Park and to provide them to the Caddo Parish Commission.
Moved by the chair.
Second.
Moved by the chair, second by Commissioner Bowman. And I would like to speak on this. And one of Caddo Parish's largest investment was purchasing the former General Motors plant. And in the agreement that we've got, it allows for the Industrial Development Board to request quarterly statements from Racer Trust. Excuse me. It allows the Industrial Development Board to request quarterly statements from Shreveport Business Park. And this simply asks them to do so. I ask that you support this so that we can have some light and hopefully work with our partner, the Industrial Development Board, in any way that we can to provide quality jobs for the citizens of Caddo Parish. Commissioner Johnson.
Like I mentioned Monday, I won't be supporting this basically since if we send a letter or we send a phone call over to the IDB and asking them to do this for us, if they do it, then we got it. If they don't do it, then I can see coming back with a resolution. But if they agree to do it in an informal setting, why go through the process of doing a resolution? So I will be against this, and there's no reason, to me, I see no reason to do it as a resolution if they're willing to do this on their own, from which we ask the question of. If we don't ask the question, then they won't do it. But once we have asked the question and they have decided that, yeah, we will do it because you asked us to do it, then why do it as a resolution? So I would say go through the route of formally asking them, let them do it, and then we move forward.
Thank you. Commissioner Middleton.
Call for the question.
There's no second. Please vote on the issue.
I can't do that already.
I second it.
Of course.
Okay.
I second
Okay,
this
so
call for the
the question's been called by Commissioner Middleton, second by Commissioner Johnson. Please vote. Calling for the question.
What question?
On this resolution.
Yeah, come on, I know.
Get us out of here.
Okay. And the question's been called. Please vote on the issue.
Wait a minute. Yeah. Wait a minute.
Fails.
Can I,
That fails.
Resolution.
Fails.
It's a resolution. Wait, can I change my vote?
You have to have 7.
And I pressed the wrong thing, so I want my vote to change.
Thank you.
Point of
And
information.
your vote is
It's what?
No.
no?
That's what you
Yes?
press.
Yeah, no, it's yes. I pressed no, but I want it to be yes.
You want it to be yes?
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Bowman wants it to be yes, that it would
Yeah,
pass
we did.
at that time.
Let the record show that
Well, can you
Commissioner
do
Bowman.
that?
Yes, I can. I'm present. Show me Robert's Rules
Absolutely,
of
you
Orders
can do
where I
that. If you
can.
press the wrong button, you can always correct yourself. Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
That's all it only took 6 for a resolution.
No, it's 7
7.
to, it's a majority of the, of the
The entire
commission body. That's why it takes 7 instead of 6. A resolution
you.
or ordinance.
And my vote counts as 7 with changes.
All right,
Next item, Mr. Hopkins.
Why don't we just, I'll make a motion to reconsider. Let's just do it right. Can I
Second.
do
But
that?
somebody from the
Second.
failing side has to make that, and not somebody from the other side.
Well, I failed
If
and I
you,
changed my
you making a
vote.
motion,
Well, you
Doug?
making a motion?
I tried to. I voted
I
yes.
say the vote,
Say it on
excuse
prevailing
me,
side.
Attorney
Yeah.
Frazier, from the chair, Attorney Frazier, has a vote been taken?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
okay.
what is the vote, Mr. Hopkins?
I have 7-4.
No, it's
With-
6-5.
Next item.
Yay, I win.
7-5, I'm sorry, no, it'd be 7-4,
No,
but
it's 6-5.
Yeah, but if you look at the, we're sitting there looking
it
at
says
6.
6-5, but he is in the meeting,
Yes.
by voice,
'Cause you
said
haven't
he pushed the
adjourned
wrong
yet.
button.
Okay.
You haven't
But that
adjourned
should
yet.
be said before the vote shows.
Thank you. The meeting has not been adjourned. Next item,
We
Mr.
have no
Hopkins.
old business, we have no new business.
Meeting adjourned.
I love my colleagues.
Just a reminder, Animal Services Committee meeting in the back.
Thank you.
Sir.